So, what if the four horsemen of the apocalypse aren't here to end the world, but to save it? That is kind of the premise of the book series that our guest today wrote about. And I'd like to welcome to the show J.F. Monroe. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being here.
I think we're going to have a lot of fun today. I think, for our guest, she has written a trilogy called Legacy of the Four, which is an urban fantasy adventure. And she kind of blends supernatural conflict with intimate personal journeys. There's themes of trust, love, courage, all the stuff that us fantasy buffs love. Her debut novel, The Legendary Guardians Reunions, introduced readers to unforgettable characters like Shade, a guarded archivist, Theo, a reluctant vessel of death, and the fan favorite, Mac, the German Shepherd companion. So, JF, I want to get started just kind of on your journey first before we get into the actual books. You mentioned being influenced by, of course, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Hunger Games, as well as the cinematic story of Christopher Nolan. How have those works kind of inspired you or guided you when you were creating the world and characters of Legacy of the Four?
That's a great question. So yeah, I started just my intimate journey of fantasy at a very young age. I think in like third grade, they had us read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And
Yeah,
so I took this journey like from a very young age. And then, as it continued, it got into like Christopher Nolan, who I can gush about all day, with his masterpieces like Interstellar and Inception and Oppenheimer, but also the Hunger Games, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. And what I love so much about these stories is the story, and what it brought about. So like, yeah, there's a lot of fantasy involved. There's, beasts and ogres and things like that. But if you strip away the fantasy, that was what interested me. Like what was left. Interstellar was a story about his father trying to cross galaxies to get back to his daughter.
right.
Lord of the Rings was this small, ordinary hobbit was, cursed to carry this burden and did so with strength that, you know, doing the right thing, even when it feels impossible, was what you got out of Lord of the Rings. And it's
Yeah,
not just Frodo, it's like the Fellowship and all of that stuff. Harry Potter, a very lonely boy, discovers he belongs to this hidden world where he learns that, love is the greatest power of all. And so when I started my journey, the biggest thing, my biggest takeaway was what themes do I want to project within a relatively simple story? Because I'm not going to go crazy and dramatic with it. I want to make sure that it is as relatable to my readers as possible. And so when I started writing it, because I love all of those things, it actually started as a screenplay. And so I was really excited. I was like, four horsemen mythology, brutal trials, clashes between angels and demons. Like, why wouldn't you want to see that? Like on the big screen. I
right.
was going to write, what is it? Like 90 pages as a script, 90 pages,
Oh,
120 if
yeah,
you're
90 to
treating it a little
120. Yeah.
fancy. And I realized as I was like writing it that I was still in the beginning at like 90 pages. And I'm like, uh-oh, this isn't going to work
This is
the
not a
way that I thought.
screenplay. This is a
It's
novel.
not a screenplay. It's not a screenplay. And so what I did was I really tried hard and you'll see it in the first book. I think I honestly get a little bit better at it in the second. I tried to transition it into a novel. And so some parts worked really well in terms of
Yeah,
like what I wanted to project in the book, and other
right,
parts definitely like have suffered from that telling instead of showing because it's up here and I'm like
right.
trying to project it.
Yeah,
But I had a really great time with it, and that is actually how it came to be. So
that's
almost a screenplay turned into a novel that then turned into three because the story was just way bigger than it was supposed to be.
that's great. What a great story. I'm curious. You talked about kind of creating characters that feel authentic and relatable, even in a fantastical setting. Of course, I think of Lord of the Rings. Samwise Ganji is really kind of the hero, really. He's the kind of
Yeah.
friend that we always want to have our back when we're feeling down. He's the one that gives us hope. My question is, were there things that happened to you in your early upbringing in your life that kind of influenced your writing in that aspect of, how do I make this character authentic? How do I make them relatable? Were there things that you came back to that like, okay, well, this will help me do that?
Yeah, and honestly, it was a learning journey for me because in the beginning, remember a lot of these stories started when we were a bit younger. And so
Yeah,
I will be honest, like when I first read Lord of the Rings, I was not mature enough to understand, the full scope of what it was trying to convey.
right.
Actually, when I went back and I saw the movie and I was like, because it translates a little differently. And so
Oh
it
yeah,
hit me a little bit harder. I went back and read the books, and then it was like an entirely new experience for me. So it was definitely a learning journey for me. And I knew that I wanted to put in my book those themes, paying homage to those movies that I had, or those books that I had read, those movies that I had watched, TV shows even that I had watched, and I pull little things from life experience. I genuinely try to be a good person at times. However, I will be honest, I found that writing more of like the morally gray characters a little easier to write
right,
than like the do-gooder, right?
right.
Or the really, really evil person. And I think that's because as just like as humans, and I'm not going to get too much into this, but like as humans living in today's world, you're not going to be completely 100% good because that's not good is a definition that isn't defined, the same by everybody. And you're not going to be 100% bad. You're always going to kind of find that middle ground. And so I did have a lot of fun writing like those little morally gray characters
Yeah,
where I'm like, how would I respond in this situation? Or how would you respond in this situation? I
right.
did ask a lot of people different things. Like I'd be like, hey, by the way, let me throw something your way. No context because that's just who I am. I'm like, let's just say, you're dropped in the middle of a world and you're having a little issue here and there. How would you respond to this? And
Yeah,
I would hear what they say and kind of like incorporate that into the decisions that my characters make because I'm trying to ground it in
that's neat.
a type of reality
Yeah,
around the fantastical.
that's great. That's great. Was there, I'm curious, the idea, what sparked the idea for Legacy of the Four? Was there, a certain moment that happened where you're like, wow, this would make a great story?
Yeah, so I was on, it was about 6 years ago. I was on when the concept came alive.
Yeah.
I was on maternity leave and I was kind of like bedridden. And so I got to watch a lot of stuff. And I was
So
watching this
you're
TV
like, let's
show.
destroy the world.
Well, yeah, oh my God. The things you go through on maternity leave is for another podcast, but yes.
Yeah.
But I was just kind of hanging out there and I was watching different TV shows because that's really all you could really do. And there was a TV show that mentioned them. And I really liked how they incorporated the Four Horsemen into this TV show. I was like, that's kind of
Okay.
cool. And I realized then that I was like, I don't really know a lot about them. I know like
Okay.
where they come from, like
Right.
what book they're in and things like that. But I was
Right.
like, I don't know a lot of details. And so set the path of me kind of looking into them and realizing even in like the book of Revelation, they're only mentioned like in four sentences. It's
Briefly.
like yeah, it's a
Yeah.
little
Briefly.
paragraph and then they're
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
And so that intrigued me a lot more. And so I started to think about them in ways of like, and I always do this, I do this with movies too. I'm like, okay, it happened this way, and they're supposed to bring about the end of the world. But what happens, like, if they're not bringing about the end of the world and they're
Yeah.
maybe doing it for something else? And once that idea started to spiral, it snowballed into this massive
That's
thing that
that's
became
interesting.
this
Maternity leave. That's
maternity
great.
leave.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the book. There is the Four Horsemen, of course, aren't harbingers of doom. They're legendary guardians in this world. I'll try not to give away too much, although I might. But let's say that, okay, so one of the questions I had was your trilogy kind of takes that myth, turns it upside down. They're humanity's protectors. um, did you set out to, from the beginning, to kind of subvert that traditional end of the world narrative, or was it more of kind of a what if type thing? I'm just curious, kind of what was your process there?
Yeah, when I first started it, they had started as being already like nobody knew about them, whereas in the book, it's a crucible. Like the world knows that we need four vessels to house the four horsemen because they're guardians of humanity. When I first
Yes.
started out, they were a little more mysterious. You weren't too certain of their purpose. I wanted to keep that a little close to the vest. And so what I had in the beginning was them waking up in just random people and then
Okay.
figuring it out as they go along, which I thought was such a cool concept.
Yeah.
And then as
That's
I
neat.
continued, right, I thought it was really cool. And so I was like, yeah, and then I'll have them kind of figure out, why did they wake up? Maybe they woke up early. Do they remember who they are? Or are they the horsemen now? Like, do they have that,
Right.
oh, I'm still the human portion? Or
Yeah.
are they just fully, the four horsemen once they wake up? And then how do they connect with the people around them that they've obviously formed relationships with now that they have awoken? And so that's how it had started. And I kind of
Okay.
leaned more towards the ambiguous, like, will they, won't they? Like, are they bad
Right.
harbingers or are they
Right.
good people, trying to
Right.
help
I
out?
gotcha. That's good.
I thought so. And then when I started to move it towards the novel, I realized early on, I was like, it wasn't working for me the way I wanted
Okay.
it to. Like, it wasn't hitting hard enough. And so that's kind of where the crucible came in, where I was like,
Okay.
oh my gosh. And this pays a little bit of homage to, like, this is why I mentioned like Hunger Games as like,
Right.
you know, a very like motivator for me. I was like, how about, we have angels living in some lands, we have demons living in some lands, and then we have humans. And then if humans fight angels and demons, there's no contest, right? And so they
Right.
need guardians. And I was like, oh my
Right.
God, their guardians are going to be the four horsemen, but the humans got to go through trials to kind of like be their vessels, like stand the
Okay.
test of time.
Yeah, I can see how you could weave that all together. So you have Shade Mercer, who is a reclusive archivist, and Theo, who is the human vessel of death. And then you've got Mac, the loyal German Shepherd. I guess, the heart of the story, of course, lies in, you got Shade and Theo, for example. They share their deep history, childhood best friends. How did you approach developing their relationship and chemistry?
Yeah, I approached it as gently as possible. So there are times in my book where you can have a lot of fun because there's like
Yeah.
battles going on, and then there's
Yeah.
like banter because who doesn't love banter? And there's funny moments. Like Mac has a lot of funny moments because he's a dog and he's awesome, and who doesn't want like a dog companion?
Right.
But the Shade Theo ones, I tried really, really hard to just be gentle with because that was how I wanted to kind of bring the readers in. So,
Okay.
like, yeah, they're going on a journey, they're going on a quest, whatever you want to call it. Can you relate to the journey? Maybe some aspects, but not entirely. I mean, they're going through the lands of angels and demons, and obviously, we can't relate to that on that level. But you can relate to a lot of the internal strife that Theo is going to, having been like removed from the picture for 10 years suddenly, and then just like suddenly being brought back into the picture and like trying to pick up where he left off,
Right.
figure out what's going on, and then seeing Shade after so many years. Like they didn't have that closure. And so, like, you think of almost like a breakup, right? Some breakups get closure, some don't,
Right.
or God forbid, like a death, you don't get closure around sometimes when like it's like a sudden death. And so that's how I tried to approach it here. Like he got taken, she didn't recover from it. Now he's back, and maybe like her recovery is a little bit easier because she's just happy he's there, whereas his is a little bit more traumatic because he doesn't know what to do with that right now.
What do you want to reveal about the romantic angle of the story?
That was really, really important to me, that I've had a balance of
Okay.
like the romance versus the fantasy. Like when I say what this story is, it is a fantasy romance. Fantasy comes first. Like this
Right.
is a
Okay.
journey, this is a fantasy. However, romance, especially with like two best friends who may or may not have been, leading towards more up until he was taken. It's something that I wanted to play into the story naturally. You weren't gonna like, I'll tell you right now, I've read a lot of fantasy in my time. And sometimes you'll be in the middle of a battle and the main characters will pause in the middle of the battle and just like start making out. You're not
Right.
gonna find that here. That's not gonna happen. I respect it. I respect it for the stories that do it and the
Yeah.
authors that want to showcase that. That's not me. Mine
Right.
are more of like the quiet moments after the battle or before the battle, and
Okay.
how these two characters connect after being away for so long. That's
Interesting.
how I try to incorporate it. So if there's always a reason behind it, it's not just like, you know, oh my
Yeah.
God, what's happening? They're like ripping each other's clothes off or something like
Right.
that. It's
Okay.
usually
Great.
there's something subjective. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's good.
There's a
That's
point.
good. So I want to talk about Mac. I read that it's loosely inspired by your own real life dog. Is that true?
It is. It is. Not the one that I have currently, though he's a little courageous guy, but he's like 12 pounds of nothing. He's like my little lounge dog. My dog that I had back when I was a lot younger, his name was Peanuts. He was a mixed German Shepherd, and that
Okay.
dog, like, that was my buddy. He followed me everywhere, like, anywhere I went, he was there. And so there was that warmth that
Yeah.
came like when I think about him, I'm like,
Yeah.
I always felt safe around him. We had good
Yeah.
times. I would pretend to talk to him, obviously, like you're a kid and he's your buddy, like you pretend to talk to
Yep.
your dog. And so Mac kind of came out of him. I had to pay homage to him because he was such a impactful part of my life.
That's great. That's great. So my dog Ace was he passed away just like about a month ago, and he was with me for 12 years, and so I know I want to keep his memory alive as well. So I think that's pretty cool that you were able to put his memory into your story. I think that's really neat.
Yes, I loved it.
Yeah, that's great. So, how do you balance when you're writing, I think just kind of, thought process of balancing explosive action and supernatural elements with the human themes and relationships? Like, it becomes a balance, right? Because you can't be too heavy in one way or the other. How do you try and find that balance?
Yeah, so what I'll do is, and my method is wild, and it's not for everybody, but I will just write. Like I'm a full-time mom, I am work a full-time job, life is a little crazy. And so at night is when I usually get to settle down and I'm like, all right, I'm going to start typing
Right.
away and I'm going to see what happens. But it is precious because I only get that few hours. And so what I'll try to do is just write as much as I can and see what I can fit in after. So like I'll
Okay.
try to get the main parts in my brain. Like I'll say like, all right, I know I want to get to this scene. How am I going to get to the scene? Let's just start writing and see how I can get to the scene. And if I can get to it, I've succeeded. And I can then go back and incorporate different things to kind of balance it out. The most
Okay.
important thing to me is the characters. I think it's very showing in my first book and even in my second book. Like the characters are the center of my novel. Their
Okay.
focus is huge. And so if the balance ever tips, it's going to tip in by the characters. But I do try to maintain it. I will be honest, world building is not my center of expertise. I
Okay.
do my best. I do my best. That's why it's like, oh, it's the world. And it's just kind of like angels are up here, demons are here, humans are here.
Right.
It's a very clipped version, but the characters are what make the story, at least for me. Like that's where my bread and butter is. And
You
so
kind of just write, and then go back and edit, edit, edit. Yeah.
that's it. Right,
Yeah.
right, right. And then edit, 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 and incorporate where I need to.
Well, without giving spoilers, what can readers expect as the trilogy progresses into book two? One kind of set the stage with the Horsemen reuniting. How do the stakes rise in book two?
You said it best. Book one set the stage. It was a foundational book. Everybody's reuniting, and it sets the stage for book two, which is the meat and potatoes of the journey.
Okay.
So, a lot of book two is the characters going through the journey, and then book three just takes us home. It's the wrap. It is a very simple, almost like a hero's journey type
Okay.
situation,
Yeah.
very, very simple plot developments. And then as you go along, there's twists and there's surprises and there's really wonderful things that happen. But if you back up and just look at it broadly, book one is foundational, book two is journey, book three is wrap up.
Okay.
And that's what it
Great.
is.
Um, I'd like to talk to a little bit about your writing journey. What has the road to publishing been like for you from the moment you first imagined writing the book to holding the finished book in your hands? What was that challenge, or were there challenges, any kind of breakthrough moments that come to mind? I'm just, I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, of course. So it's been a journey. The first book was my learning curve. And So when I did it, when I decided like, all right, I wrote this book, it's here on my laptop. What do I do? Like, do I want to publish it now?
Right.
Like, is that what's going to happen? And so there's two parts. There's that mental part of like, you got to get in the mindset of like, you're about to put something very vulnerable out there into the world for people to potentially read. And
Right.
so once I got over that hump, which was
Yeah.
very like huge for me because
Okay.
I'm very like quiet and introverted usually. And so that was big. Once I got that, and then it's just learning how to do it. Amazon KDP makes it very easy. They almost
Yeah.
kind of like walk you through it. So there's trad publishing and then there's indie publishing, and that usually goes through Amazon. Trad
Yeah.
publishing, good luck. Like if you send out your query letters, you do what you're
Right.
supposed to. Sometimes you'll get picked up. I'm a very impatient person. It's not going to fly with me. I sent out four
Right.
letters. I was like, no, I'm done. So I went
Yeah.
to Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon KDP walks you through it, but then you got to get a book cover. I didn't know that. Like that took me a minute. I was like, oh, I'm not an artist.
Right.
What am I supposed to do here?
Yeah.
And so I did some research and I found Fiverr, which is like a website that you can go and consultants doing
Yeah.
a whole range of stuff.
Oh yeah.
But you could find people, artists doing
Very
book covers.
useful.
And I was
Yep.
like, yes. So I found a wonderful artist that did the book covers for one and two, and hopefully three. And then you need to make sure that they're sized right. You need to go get an ISBN. You need to, make sure that you have the back cover. It's just, I learned as I went, which I don't necessarily recommend, but
Right.
honestly, it worked for me. Like
Yeah.
it was just something that happened that I was like, let's do it. I can be an impulsive person, and it worked out for me. And then when I
Yeah.
held the book in my hand, I thought I was done. Like I'm like, look, it's here.
Yeah.
Go ahead, people. Like go read it now.
Right. Right.
And then there's that scary, sneaky beast called
Right.
marketing
Right.
that nobody tells you about
Yeah. Once
when you
you've
publish
written
a
a
book.
book, now you have to let people know it exists.
Ooh, and that is a scary, scary beast for me. And so
Yeah.
now you have me on Instagram and TikTok making awkward and cringy videos. Got better, got better at like the pictures and stuff like
Yeah.
that, but my
Yeah.
videos are, yeah,
Yeah.
they're works in progress.
Well,
And so that's what it's.
you're out there doing it. My hats off to anyone who has the discipline to write a book and then get it publish it themselves and then go out there and market it themselves. It's a lot, and you're a full-time mom, full-time job, all that good stuff. So it's, you got a full life, but pursuing your dreams, I mean, that's what we got to do. So I think it's great. The question I do have is, there are a lot of aspiring writers that have similar questions. Is there any kind of advice you have to new authors who maybe are thinking about writing a book or started writing a book? Is there anything that you've found since you've gotten through this first book process that you're like, here's the biggest takeaway? If you're thinking about writing a book, do this or don't do this.
No, that's a great question. Mine is very simple, almost cliche. Just do it. You have
Yeah.
to do it. Like, um, don't let, there's tons of articles out on the internet that tell you how to do it, that can guide you. I didn't, and this might say a lot about my book, who knows? But like, I didn't use any of those articles. Like, I opened up a Word document and I started typing. And
Right.
then I started to maybe look at like how people format their books, and I formatted it. And it was
Yeah.
very easy. Like you look up how you format it, there's 50 million things. I picked one. I was like, this works. Let's go. And the only thing I can tell them is that if you don't do it, you're never going to know. So
Right.
do it, get it done. And then you
Yeah.
have to do that mental mindset of like, is this for you or is this something you want to share with the world? And once you make
Hmm.
that decision, then the rest is just pie. Like I sit here and I'm so incredibly happy. Like this is a very joyous thing for me. I
That's
love
great.
talking about this book. I like coming on podcasts. Marketing is not my favorite, but I'm doing
Yeah.
it like because I
Yeah.
want people to read it. I want to share it
Yeah.
with the world.
Yeah.
And I have no regrets. I have
That's
none.
great.
So I know that I did it and it's out there and I feel very accomplished and I feel very proud. And so just go out and do it because if you don't, you're not going to know.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
great. Yeah, agree completely. Absolutely. I guess, sometimes it says, I read this, I don't know if it's true, but I read your storytelling motto is. that destiny isn't written in stone but carved by the choices we make. Is And I love that. That's beautiful. How does that idea influence your writing process or the decisions for your characters?
Yeah, so a huge theme in my book is fate versus choice. Like a
Okay.
lot of what happens is like characters are, well, this has already been written, like this is happening. Whereas other
Right.
characters are like, no, we're going to
Yeah.
be making the choices going forward. And it's like, which one is correct?
Right.
And it's an age old question. I can't answer it. Like I
Right.
choose to believe that we can make our choices, that we are free to do so, but who knows what the proper answer to that is.
Right.
And so that's how you'll find it in my stories. Like
Okay.
it'll always be questions, and you have the power to choose, like, was Theo and Shade's journey fate or was it choice? Like did they make certain choices that then led them to that?
Right. That's what
And
I love
so
about fantasy more than anything else is, fantasy and science fiction as well, but we get to really explore the big questions in the universe, and isn't that one of the biggest ones, right? How much is fate? How much is choice, So I think that's really beautiful. The first draft is just you telling yourself the story is a famous quote by Terry Pratchett. How has that wisdom played into your writing journey, especially when drafting the Legendary Guardians?
that quote got me through it.
Okay.
It's a quote that I repeatedly tell myself whenever like intrusive thoughts might come in, because they're
Right.
going to. It's
Yeah.
going to happen. Like
Yeah.
that's normal. The journey itself, I said, I'm very happy with it. But of course, on it, you have those terrible intrusive thoughts,
Yeah.
that creative doubt.
Yeah. That thought
And
is
that
like, am
quote,
I awful?
right. I
Yeah.
swear that's exactly one of the things that happened. Like I'm just reading it and I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
terrible. This is terrible. And that's okay though. Like that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And so this quote I wanted to put on like I want to like scream this quote to whoever will listen, because it's so simple, but it's so incredibly effective. Like this chased the intrusive thoughts away. Because at the end of the day, it's correct. The first draft, nobody's seeing it but you.
Right. Right.
You don't have to do anything with
And
it.
just make
So like,
something you would want to read. Make something
yeah,
just do it for
that's it.
yourself. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that
That's it. So
enjoy doing world building and writing screenplays. And for me, it's like I always have to come back to, okay, wait a minute. It's not like I'm trying not to write something that is enjoyable for anybody other than me. Like I need to, like, am I writing something I would want to watch? And that is really, let me come back and do it over again. Would I enjoy this line, or would I think this line was stupid? What like I always come back to that because I'll start to get off into, you see all these like tips and, do this when you're writing and do this and structure. Like, so I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, if you want to do it by the numbers, paint by the numbers, but let me do something I want to enjoy. So I think that's great. And I definitely encourage people. I'm not a book writer. I don't have the patience that you guys have. I applaud
that's
you for
okay.
doing it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a question. I do have a question about, kind of reader impact now that you're, starting to get the book out there and people are reading it and, giving you feedback. What do your readers kind of take away from it, from any kind of interaction you've had with your fans? What are some things that, maybe surprised you or, pleasantly or, like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. Now that you're getting that interaction, I'm curious what your takeaway is.
Yeah. So a lot of my reviews, everyone, and I think it's hilarious and I love it. And I wish that I could talk to them about it, because they
Yeah.
leave the review and the review is great. I love it. But I'm like, talk to me. They love my side characters.
Okay.
I don't know where it came from. I get it. I get it on a certain level. But every time I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, any feedback? Like, we love your side characters. And I'm like, my poor mains. And they're like, no, we love them too. But the side characters just take the cake. And that's
Right.
because, and I found out this when I was writing, like, you can't make a plan for your side characters. Like I tried to track Theo and Shade's journey. I had like a brief outline in my head, but the side
Right.
characters you can have a little bit more freedom, a little more fun with.
Yeah.
And there was one in particular that was supposed to have only a few lines.
Yeah.
And when I had given it to, because when it was finished, I gave it to my niece. She was the only eyeballs that I trusted on it at the time. I
Yeah.
was like,
Okay.
I'm only giving you like this, and that's it.
Yeah.
She had
You're
pointed
the
out,
cool
she
aunt.
was like,
Clearly, you're the cool aunt.
exactly. Like I was
Yeah.
like, you're the person. So this,
Yeah.
sorry and thank you. And she had read it and was like, I love this character. And I'm like, this character has 4 lines. What are you talking about? And she's like, I just wish that this character had more. And so I had gone back and I was like, you know what? Let's see where it goes. I'm going to try to give this character a little more like something to do.
Right.
And that character's still with me in the second book.
Oh,
And
that's great.
it's exciting. And so now that I see the reviews, it just makes me laugh because I'm like,
Right.
all right, they
That
love
is so
side
cool.
characters.
Yeah, that's neat hearing how that character just strikes a chord with people. And when you were writing it, it was sounded like it wasn't like a major deal, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is something that is connecting. That's yeah, you never know. You just never know what's gonna connect with people. Uh,
Yeah.
who, you know, is there someone I guess, is there a certain group or age group or anything that you think is like the ideal reader for your trilogy or is it really kind of for anybody in fantasy?
I'd want to say it's for anybody in fantasy. I would definitely try if I had to tack an age on it, just because of some of the scenes in it, that can be pretty intense, maybe 18 plus.
Right.
Um, but that's all I would really tack on it. I think
Right.
it's a really fun journey
Yeah.
for anybody to pick up. It has familiar tropes in fantasy that you see in like the found family and things like that. Friends to more, like there's
Yeah.
familiarity there that I think that they would appreciate. But I
Yeah.
also think it's a very different twist on something that's not crazily utilized. So
Yeah.
I think it's
Do you
enough to grab
think it
attention.
now, do you think it sounds like your book might be perfect for the person who is not a hardcore fantasy reader? It sounds like it's simple enough that it might convert them. You think so?
Yes, 100%. Just if we take a minute to compare it to other fantasies, like fantasy novels tend to run like 400 plus pages. I've
Yeah.
seen six. I've I've touched eight, which is insane
Yeah.
to me, who loves it, but it's that
Yeah.
that was wild. And so this is almost touching four.
Okay.
It's a simple journey. It's a nice pickup for those who might be looking to wet their feet in fantasy and things like that. 100% agree. Yeah, I would say you'd want to grab that book. It's a nice little intro into the fantasy world, but then buckle up because if you're going past it, like it gets intense.
That's great. Okay, so I want to ask just a little bit about we're going to go into science fiction and fantasy like movies and TV shows and I just want to ask you some questions about some of your thoughts, when it comes to if you had to pick in the fantasy genre of movies, is there a particular movie or movie series that for you is your favorite? I know it's hard.
It is hard. It's really hard. I'm gonna go with The Lord of the Rings. To be
Nice.
more specific, I think I might say Two Towers. I think
Well
that
done.
was like,
Bravo. Bravo.
thank you.
Yes,
I
I
think,
agree completely. Definitely the Two Towers is the best in the trilogy.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I,
Yes, I loved it. What about so I guess is there a particular character in the Lord of the Rings universe that you feel a kindred spirit for or that you really enjoy any second they're on the screen?
yes. This was a good one. When I was younger, I would have said probably Legolas, right? Because he was just
Right.
awesome.
Right.
As I grew up, I had a very strong appreciation for Frodo, which is
Yeah.
really wild to me because I didn't when I was younger. I was like, every scene he was in, I'm like, my God, like just go to
Yeah.
like go to someone else, anybody else, even Sam. Like go to
Yeah.
Sam. I'll watch Sam. Frodo's journey, his hero journey, is so incredibly sad
Yeah.
because he's a little different. He starts
Right.
off so happy.
Yeah.
He's this happy hobbit, and he
Yeah.
goes on this journey, and it just tears at him and tears at him, and he doesn't lose himself because he surrounds himself with people that are able to hold him up. And at the end of the series, he finds like happiness again, but kind of like in death. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't have the quintessential happy ending
Yeah.
that others do. And that I think as an adult affects me more now than it did like back then when I'm like, I like Sam, he's really nice, or I like Legolas, he's so
Yeah.
cool. Now it's like I understand Frodo. He could not live with what he went through. He
Yeah.
wanted to go to I think the Undying Lands or
Right,
something like that.
right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's, and I think that that's, and by the way, that is the actual symbolism in the end is that he is going off into the next level of existence, sort of
Yes.
that symbolism. But I think for me, Lord of the Rings, when I was in my 20s, it was all about Gandalf because he was cool, he is the wizard, had the magic and all that stuff, right?
Yes.
And then, now, I get older, I watch the trilogy again and I'm in my 40s and I watch it and I'm like, I'm with Samwise, man. That's my guy, like
Yeah.
he's the real hero. He's like, if it's not for
He is.
him, Frodo doesn't get where he's going. He's carrying him across the finish line. So it's kind of funny your
Love it.
perspective how it changes as time goes on.
It's
Yeah,
ridiculous. Yeah.
yeah. All right. So, oh yeah. So another question I know you're a big Christopher Nolan fan, so I'm sure you have some science fiction favorites. Are there any science fiction movies that pop out at you that you're like, oh, I love these movies or this movie particularly?
Yeah. So any Christopher Nolan movie
Yeah,
I will make a case for, or at least try to. Tenet, I'm still trying to figure out a little bit sometimes.
yeah,
I'm like, let me think this through again one more time. But I'm happy to do it. I
yeah.
am happy to do it. I'm a huge Alien fan.
Okay,
Huge.
great.
Not
Yeah.
like no, you know what? The most recent wasn't bad.
Yeah,
It
the
wasn't
most
bad.
recent was not bad. Yeah.
I liked it. I'm gonna watch the TV show on
Yes.
Hulu. Like I have plans. I
Yeah.
really do like Alien. I feel like it got a little off track in the middle
Yeah.
somewhere, but like Alien and Aliens,
Yeah, the classics.
I was completely on board with them and the idea that like, life exists past Earth
Yes.
and things like that. And so it was, and then it was wrapped in a horror. So don't like sci-fi
Right.
horror. So it was pretty
Yeah.
exciting for me. I think Aliens would probably take the cake right after Christopher Nolan.
It's pretty interesting. My one of my daughters, she got it's like a gerbil. No, it's not a gerbil. It's got all these spikes. I forget what it's. She got this little animal and
Okay.
she was like, "What are you going to I was like, "What are you going to name it?" And she was like, "I'm going to name it Ripley." And I was like, "From the Alien movies? From like my generation's Alien movies?" And she's like, "Oh, you've seen those movies?" I'm like, "Yeah." And so
Check
like
this
yeah,
out. Like,
she rediscovered the movies, those old movies from the 80s. I was like, yeah. But yeah, so it's kind of funny how the next generation, they discover it all over again and, it's popular again. So fascinating. All right. So we're going to go ahead and do a lightning round of questions. I do this with all my guests at the end. And so it should be kind of fun. And just, go with it. There's no wrong answers. So it'll be fun. All right. So if you could be one of the four horsemen for a day, death, war, famine, or pestilence, which would you choose and what would you do with that power?
I would choose death. I would
Okay.
choose death, and I would want to go around and just talk to people whose time might be close to being up. Not do anything weird about it, but like
Right.
talk to them. I'd want to talk to
Okay.
them.
Yeah, that's neat. I like that. Kind of reset their priorities. Yeah.
Totally.
Okay. Aside from the legends in your own books, okay, who is your favorite mythological or legendary figure from any culture? So this can be not just fantasy books, but any mythological or legendary figure besides your books.
Okay. I am a huge Greek mythology fan. Was
Okay.
a class Yeah, I was classics minor in college. And so I'm gonna say that I loved this Greek god called Hephaestus. He was the
Okay.
black
I don't know anything about that one. Tell me.
Yes. He was the blacksmith. He lived on Mount Olympus. Well, he was thrown from Mount Olympus. It's a long story, but he was supposed to
Okay.
marry like the prettiest god, Aphrodite, and she thought he was hideous. And so he played a ridiculously clever trick on her and the person that she was with in order
Really?
to kind of like win her back. So
Wow. Okay. Very
pretty
cool.
cool.
Okay. Mac, the German Shepherd, suddenly gets the ability to talk. What's the first cheeky comment or wisecrack you imagine him saying?
Questions are wonderful. He gets the ability to talk. He would probably say something really snarky about the slowness at which Theo and Shade kind of like start to rekindle. Like he'd be annoyed by that.
Right.
He would say
Yeah.
like, "Let's go, like hurry this up. We don't got time for this." I
Yeah.
would definitely view him as sarcastic.
That's great. I love it. A sarcastic dog. I love it. Okay, so you're not only a writer, but a fan of fantasy. So if you could live in any fictional world for 24 hours, which world would you choose? Middle Earth, Hogwarts, anything.
So I would say, and this is a toxic trait of mine, I would definitely say Hogwarts because I firmly believe that I have an opportunity to survive there. Like
Right.
I'd make it. I'd make it in Hogwarts.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we're mudbloods. I don't think we would make it.
I'm like, I could do it. I could figure it out. Like, fake it till you make it. So,
I'm actually looking forward to the new series. I am.
me too.
I'm fine. Let's do it again. I'm okay with it.
Me too.
Okay.
I feel the same.
So now I read you're a big coffee lover. So let's say the most important question, coffee or tea, which fuels your writing sessions?
Coffee.
Coffee. Okay. You
I
are a
do
coffee.
drink tea. I do drink tea. I
Okay.
respect
All
the
right.
tea. I do.
Yeah. All right.
Coffee. It's always
Yeah,
going to be
coffee.
coffee.
Absolutely. Same here. All right. Well, that's it for the lightning round. I really want to thank you for coming on the show. Is there a website that we can drive our audience to that they should go check out? I think I was checking it out earlier. What is it? Again, jfmonroebookshelf.com. Is that accurate?
You got it. Yes, that's it.
All right, check it out. Make sure you check that out. The first book is available in ebook and print at Amazon, most major retailers, and you can check out her official website. And of course, she is doing Instagram, TikTok videos. They're not cringy, no matter what she says. They're very good. So check her out. Is there anything else you'd like to leave us with?
No, we're good. The first book is also on Audible. So if you like to listen rather than
Oh,
read, you
yeah.
can check that out there too.
All right, that's great. Great. Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All righty.